Well, now that the planking has been completed, you may be wondering where the project's going from here. Well, apart from the obvious, which is a lot of sanding, the hull is going to get a coat of penetrating epoxy to stabilize the wood. Even though it's been less than a week since the hull has been completely finished with strips, and the strips are edge glued, I've noticed that in a few places that it's starting to shrink apart. So I'm thinking a coat of penetrating epoxy is going to be essential to stabilize the wood. I'm not sure yet when I'll put the fiberglass cloth on and epoxy it. We are advancing towards the latter part of May now, and since this is only a part-time project, and I do have a lot of other stuff to do, that this project might be starting to slow down substantially. Any days when there's not much else on the go, or if the weather is not very nice, I may spend a day at her. So the plan right now is not to put out a video every week, but put one out as I get enough content to warrant it. I'll show you a few examples now of what I was talking about a little earlier, about the seams starting to open up a little bit. There's a job to tell on camera because there's nothing to compare it to, but the widest places she've opened up is probably less than a 32nd of an inch. But I'd like to nip it in the bud and deal with it now before it turns into a potential problem. Well, the fiberglass cloth that I ordered hasn't arrived yet, so I decided to prop the stern up and start working on the transom. I think I've already mentioned that the transom is going to have a layer of oak applied on the outside, but I've decided not to record putting it on. It's a very slow process that involves many test fits to get the seam around the perimeter of the transom very fine, which it needs to be since the transom is going to be finished bright. So I decided the best way to proceed would be to epoxy 3 or 4 planks in place, and then when they set up, fit and epoxy another group. As you may recall, when I started this build, the keel and the stem was created from laminations. Yesterday I applied the last couple of layers, and I held them in place with nails driven through sacrificial blocks. That way when the epoxy set, I could just break up little blocks and easily pull the nails back. Time to sand the transom now. There's a serious overhang on some of the strips there, so I'm going to have to use my angle grinder with a coarse disc on it and be careful sanding it back some until I get it down manageable enough so that I can use my vibrating palm sander to sand the oak strips on the transom. Well, after several minutes with the palm sander, I knew it wasn't up to the task. So I knew I had to break out the big gun. The 7-inch disc sander is a variable speed. A bit hard to control, but less chance of making gouges in the transom. So after I sanded out the burn marks from the saw blade, I switched over to the random orbit sander and then finished up with the palm sander. And the result was a nice smooth transom.